Dragon Ball villains are among some of the most iconic in anime, and one of those iconic villains that, as of late, has seen a gigantic resurgence in popularity is Broly. Because of the high quality and amazing marketing of Dragon Ball Super Broly and him being the titular character, many people who have never even heard of him before now know him and love him, catapulting him into the mainstream anime villain discourse along such characters as Frieza and Cell. Broly had been popular before, but not to the level of after the film came out. This is a good thing because of the fact that it allowed people to go back and watch his old movies, but the downside of this was that it reignited what I would call a disrespect that the original interpretation of him always got, especially now that it was being compared to the new interpretation that people had just seen. Old Broly and new Broly, while being similar in a lot of ways, have some major defining differences that I think cause people to look at the old Broly in the wrong light and not understand what the intention was. Original Broly and new Broly were not made for the same reasons, and this should be apparent to anyone who watched both films, and I wanted to try and explain that in this video. The first thing I want to bring up, which is one of the major critiques and memes I always see spouted about the original Broly, is his whole motivation is that he heard Goku crying as a baby. Now, while funny when I first heard this, when I realized there were people who actually were taking this joke seriously, it started to grate on me the more I heard it. If you were only to hear a plot description of the film, you might come away with thinking that Broly was motivated by that, since he obviously goes after Goku specifically in the film. Goku is not where his rage and bloodlust come from, though. Broly was born with a power level of 10,000, which was an insane number for a Saiyan baby, so much that the King Vegeta ordered him to be murdered against the wishes of his father. As King Vegeta himself goes into the nursery to murder Broly, Goku is crying his lungs out as Broly is stabbed repeatedly. So, of course Broly would associate his crying with this traumatic event, even if it was just subconsciously. It would most likely send him back to that time in his life every time he heard it. I mean, to add insult to injury, on that same day, Planet Vegeta was blown up by Frieza, and Broly and his father barely survived thanks to Broly's strength. So while it is true that Goku's crying was something that made Broly mad, it was not Goku himself that caused his rage, but what it reminded him of. This makes even more sense when you also take into account my second point, which is, while new Broly has rage, at his core, he is what the anime community would call a soft boy. Someone who, even though they have a tough exterior, they also have a soft heart. Original Broly is a sick, twisted psychopath. Original Broly loved violence and anything to do with killing. Multiple times in flashbacks, you see him going on rampages and relishing in the killing, even beyond what regular Saiyan warriors normally do. His father saw this and had him restrained using a collar given to him to control his mind and stop him from being so bloodlusted. Of course Broly would go insane as soon as he broke out of it. That was who he was as a character. The legendary Super Saiyan aspects of both characters shows what I mean by this difference, in that while the new Broly also has rage and the legendary Super Saiyan encompasses this, it is shown as something that he is trying to avoid and reconcile with. The new movie, Dragon Ball Superhero, even shows this with him training on how to control his rage. It is what I'd call a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde situation. The original Broly was the legendary Super Saiyan. When he transformed, it was him becoming more of his true self, and the transformation was just a natural end of his bloodlust and killing spirit. The way I would explain it is that new Broly most likely views his rage as a curse, whereas old Broly is his rage. The final critique that I hate seeing is that Broly is a boring villain, and that the new movie fixed him by giving a better backstory. While I agree that if they were going to reuse Broly as a character, they would need to reinvent him in some way to differentiate him from the old one, I just don't see it as an improvement, more of a new interpretation. The old Broly was pure rage and power. In every movie he was in, the Z-Fighters got beat up as bad as you ever saw them, and he always had this presence that made you think he was unstoppable until the last moment. There is a reason the endings to his movies are so iconic to this day, because them finally beating Broly always felt like an insane task, and them winning was so triumphant. Vegeta finally giving his energy to Goku and his punch that blows him up. It's awesome. The family Kamehameha is still one of the coolest finishes. Both the first and second movie, due to his presence as a villain, are still some of the most talked about and popular movies, and I don't think Broly having any more sad moments or inner turmoil would have added to that. He was meant to be pure rage, and that is who he was. And anyway, it's not like any of these other iconic villains are any better in that aspect. Frieza and Cell are insanely popular and revered, and they both are just sadistic monsters, because that's all they needed to be. I wanted Goku to win on Namek because of how malicious and cruel Frieza was. That's all I needed, not some 5-hour-long prequel on Frieza being bullied. New Broly has his upsides. I think he is funnier, and his relationship with the Frieza squad is cute. But I don't think this should take away from the original Broly. They were both meant to do different things. The Super Broly film is one of my favorite animated films of all time for so many reasons. Obviously, the animation is insane, with the action being so good it had my theater going insane with each new transformation. The fight choreography is great even compared to regular Z, and all of the characters are written well. This includes Broly. His new version adds sympathy to his character, and allowing him to have a softer side and stay alive at the end adds to his worth as a cast member. Since he can come back in the future, his possibilities are endless. But none of this should take away from the original films. Their animation is good as well, and while Broly and the plot overall are not as complex, they are doing exactly what they want to do, which is to create a villain that feels unstoppable and actually scary in some ways. If you haven't watched them yet, or if it's been a really long time, go watch them, because I promise they won't disappoint. All 2 of them. Huh? What do you mean 3 movies? Broly only has 2 movies. Bio what? No, I've never heard of that. I don't know what you're talking about. Thanks for watching this video. I hope I convinced some of you to give the old Broly movies a try. I really think they're good, and I think they're worth a shot if you haven't. If you enjoyed this video, here's another one I made on why I think the original Super Saiyan transformation is really underrated. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace, guys.